All right, gang, I am super excited to start things off here today because we have a brand new sponsor. It is Top Lobster. And if you don't know Top Lobster, well, you are missing out because this guy produces some of the, if not the, no, I'm going to say it, the coolest gear. I wanted to give a tip of the hat to our own store, but let's be honest, he's got the coolest Liberty gear out there. I'm wearing some right now. I got this legalized freedom hat for our video viewers at home. I also got the Scott Horton End the Wars shirt, which is freaking awesome. And there is so much more that you can find over at toplobster.com. Guys, this is a brand new sponsor. If you are a fan of this show, a supporter of this show, one of the best ways you can help us out is to support our sponsors. So I want you to go head over to toplobster.com. That is T-O-P Lobster, Lobsta.com, and just take a browse. You don't need to take my word for it. Just go check out that gear, and I guarantee you're going to find something, or probably like 10 things that you like. So he's got the coolest Liberty gear out there. We got the Reed Mises Not Mark shirt. We got some Scott Horton gear. We got Tom Woods gear. We got all sorts of awesome gear. He also does the designs for today's guest, Joshua Smith. So you may be familiar with a lot of his artwork that he does for Break the Cycle, but he is a great guy producing awesome Liberty gear. I literally got a compliment on this legalized freedom hat from the deli counter guy today. So this is a great way to start conversations, to get people interested in these shirts. I actually had a couple people as well out at the bar last week compliment me on this shirt. They probably don't know who Scott Horton is, but they liked the End the Wars message. So you really never know who you're going to connect with, and that's out here in Los Angeles. So please do me a favor, head over to toplobster.com, pick out a shirt or two, and you're going to want to use our discount code. That is ROAR, discount code ROAR, R-O-A-R. Head over to toplobster.com, use discount code ROAR for 10% off your order.
We need to empower people with not just the philosophical tools, but the inspiration to break free from the system.
Welcome to the flagship Lions of Liberty podcast, your weekly dose of education, inspiration, and real-world application from the top minds in the Liberty movement.
If you want liberty, we need to be better leaders, better husbands, better fathers, better friends, better businessmen. We need to be better people.
Here's your host, your guide, your shining beacon of liberty, Marc Clair.
Live long and live free.
All right, kitty cats, with me today, he is a two-time nominee for the Libertarian Party National Chairmanship. You may know him from that, or you may know him from his new awesome show, in which I was a recent guest on, called Break the Cycle. He is Joshua Smith. Josh, are you ready to roar?
Oh, you know it, buddy. You know it. Rawr, rawr. Yeah. XD.
I had an idea you would be. Josh, it's been, it hasn't been that long for you and me, because I was just on your show, again, Break the Cycle, just a few weeks ago. On that episode, we got into a lot of personal stuff in my life. So if you want to hear more about that, you're not going to hear it right now. You're going to go over to Break the Cycle and listen to, I believe it was episode 30. Listen to / watch, because there are YouTube versions of all your shows, just like there are of ours now.
Sure.
But Josh, we're gonna flip the script a little bit today. You got personal with me on your show, so I'm going to get personal with you today on our show.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Why not?
So I wanted to start off, though, kind of, you were on the show a few years ago, but, we have a lot more listeners since then. You're a lot more known since then. Not everybody may have heard the story of how you kind of first got into these ideas and got into the ideas of liberty. So maybe you can give us a sort of the abridged version of that.
Sure. Yeah, I'll try not to drone on for 20 minutes about it. But I joined the military right after 9/11. That was, me going to protect my country from the big bad terrorists that I thought were, Pakistani via or Saudi Arabian nationals via Pakistan or whatever. I didn't know. I had no idea. That's just what I thought at the time. And so I joined the military. I was stationed on the USS Constellation. We were basically the biggest battle group that was part of shock and awe in Iraq. And for me, it was kind of weird because I'm an 18-year-old kid going, what the fuck are we doing in Iraq? You know what I mean? That's all I could think about is like, why are we even here? What's going on? We're being sold this line of bullshit about weapons of mass destruction. Everybody who's in knows that's not happening. And so when I got out, I was really, really jaded. And around 2005, I was kind of for me, it felt like the Republican Party was leaving me, obviously. And I definitely didn't have a home in the Democrats. They weren't anti-war, which was news to me. I had always thought that the Democrats and the left were anti-war until I understood that the Democrats were a big part of pushing for more wars in the Middle East. And so I kind of just floated around, not really knowing where I belonged. I was still a registered Republican. And in 2007, I found Ron Paul. I attached the Ron Paul campaign really hard, and I actually worked for the Ron Paul campaign in 2008. And that's where I really started learning about the ideas of liberty, and it went to being more than just about being anti-war for me. I mean, it's still my number one thing. I'm always going to be a huge anti-war advocate. I think war is an absolute waste of spending, of innocent human lives, of all that shit. But then I started learning about the Federal Reserve a lot. Which really kind of it's a window you can't close. But then it also helped me segue into reading Murray Rothbard and F.A. Hayek. And I even read some of the Cato guys like David Bose. And it really just started changing my perspective. And after watching what the GOP did to Ron Paul, the GOP had officially left me. They were done. I was done with them. And so in 2012, I didn't really participate other than writing in Ron Paul. And then I, got really interested in the political aspect again in 2016 when I saw, this kind of clown show going on with Donald Trump and Hillary. And I'm going, holy shit, what have we come to? I mean, I thought George Bush was bad. I thought Obama was bad. And now we're talking about getting Hillary Clinton or the Prentice guy as the president. Okay. So I joined the Libertarian Party in 2016 and started working for the Washington State Party. Then that's when you and I met was around 2017 when I was running for chair the first time. But
yeah, we can get into the story of Josh and I's first meeting again. I'll just send you over because we just talked about this last time over on Break the Cycle episode 30. We get into the full crazy story of how we actually first met in person in New Orleans at randomly,
yeah, which is kind of cool. But so yeah, I worked on the Gary Johnson, Bill Weld campaign. Unfortunately, I didn't know much about Bill Weld at the time. I do now. I regret working for Bill Weld. I would have not done that had I known Bill Weld was this basically moderate Republican neocon that worked for was a Raytheon lobbyist and all this shit. But anyway, so I worked on the campaign, and then I found out about the actual National Party and Nick Sarwark, and I started watching Nick Sarwark. And at first, I was like, wow, this guy's really fucking cool, like he's really like edgy, and then I realized he's kind of a dick, and he started going after people like Tom Woods and Eric July and Dave Smith and all these wonderful people who are way more influential than he will ever be. And so I decided that I was going to run for chairman of the National Libertarian Party, just a little old West Coast maintenance guy. And I did really well. I didn't do well in the numbers. I got 22% of the vote in 2018, but I did good enough to travel to 26 states. I got to keynote a ballroom behind Ron Paul in Omaha, Nebraska. I got to do a lot of really cool things that, normies just don't do. And so then I ran again in 2020 and I got really close to winning. In fact, there's some dispute over whether or not the numbers were correct. But they kind of screwed us over with COVID and used it.
Wait, is there a dispute? Because I actually wasn't at that vote. Actually, is the one that took place at the in-person convention.
Correct. Yeah.
So
yep.
You want to get into that a little bit because I didn't end up being able to make it, so I don't really know exactly.
We can. I mean, here's the skinny of what I know, at least. There's other people that might have more information on it. I know there's a couple other board members that were very, very skeptical of the counts. So what had happened was all the votes that had taken place over the 2 days prior to this vote for chairman of the National Party were coming in around 650 to 700 vote totals. And as you know, half the convention was in person, half the convention was online.
What a shit show that online convention.
It was a shit show. But even in the in-person convention, half of the people were still online over a loudspeaker, okay, through a Zoom meeting. And so we did the debate the night before, and it was very clear that I had the room. I mean, nobody can deny that I had the room. The in-person delegates were mine. It wasn't even close. I mean, Joe Bishop Henchman probably had maybe a quarter of the room. It wasn't even close. People were chanting "break the cycle" like as loud as they could. I mean, it was nuts. It felt like, so all the votes were for every motion prior to this election. Them counting this up was about 650 to 700 votes, somewhere in there. Chair election happens, vote totals over 900. and people start losing their shit, going, what the fuck is going on here? And at this point, I'm just so drained. I was like, I don't even have the like energy to fight anymore. You know what I mean? But people started running up to the mic and questioning credentials, and credentials committee chair came up on stage and was basically like, sorry, there's nothing we're going to do right now. You guys will have
Were
to
those
wait.
like extra votes that were all in person, or did that include some kind of like online voting?
Who knows?
We don't know.
It was secret balloting. And
So
so
it wasn't even broken down.
well, and then here's the craziest thing
or anything like that.
No, it was broken down by state, right? And they show it real quick on the screen, and then it goes away, and that's that. It's over. They, Joe Bishop Henchman's considered the new chair. I got 40-something% of the vote. I mean, it was close. We were within 100 votes. So the added votes that happened on that particular election could have completely changed the outcome of the vote totals and who the winner was. So it was kind of, it was very strange, and people were questioning it, and they weren't giving us any answers. And then the next after the vice chair, because after the vice chair election was the secretary election, and me and Karen Ann Harlos are both known to be very radical on this board. Me and Karen Ann usually vote together as part of a radical voting block of people on all the stuff that happens in the party. And there's a pragmatist element that does not want the pink-haired lady on stage anymore. Okay. And so,
because Lord knows that's why people are turned off by libertarians,
right?
Because they know who our secretary is, first of all, anyway.
Yeah. So many people know who the Libertarian Party secretary is, and Karen's great. She's one of my best friends on the board. I've loved Karen Ann since I started with this party. She's amazing, and so her vote totals come out even a couple higher than mine, but she wins. I mean, convincingly. And Nick Sarwark goes flying up to a microphone to start questioning the vote, almost like they tried to railroad her too, but it didn't work. You know what I mean? And he was freaking out. And you see Evan, who is the other candidate for secretary, goes running over to Nick, and they start whispering. And he goes, no, you got to stop. And he runs up and congratulates Karen Ann and concedes immediately. It's like, what is going on here, right? And so I come to find out later that a lot of people are, even a couple of the board members are very, very skeptical of the chair election and some of the other elections as well, because there was this element that wasn't there. They were phantom. You know what I mean? They were online. They were all run and controlled by the executive director at the time, Dan Fishman, who's in cahoots with Nick Sarwark and all these people. We find out later that he's done all this crazy shit during this election to try and push the election or the convention to be offline or online, the whole thing. And he's working against the interest of what the party members want and the board has voted on, which is not correct. You don't do that. The executive director works for us. You know what I mean?
And do you think that the push by Dan Fishman and others to get as much of it online or all of it online was specifically
Mises Caucus.
To try to,
no doubt. There's no doubt about it, because they knew the Mises Caucus is largely made up of younger, healthier people. The Prags are largely made up of older gatekeepers who have been in the party for a long time, and they're scared to go to Orlando.
But Josh, I was told the Mises Caucus was made of racists.
Oh yeah, totally racist. Yeah. That's probably why it doesn't affect the white man so much, I guess, or whatever. No, but we knew as a caucus that almost everyone in the caucus that was going to be a delegate was going to go. I mean, we were going to go to Orlando. No one was going to stop us from going to Orlando. I busted my ass on that board to make sure that we still had some kind of an in-person convention. It was a concession to have a hybrid convention. And I really do believe in my heart that they still fucked us. I really do.
Because there's no way to really know either way. Like, you can have your suspicions, but at the end of the day, like, those vote totals, they come from like the state chairs, and they're just gathering the total. So who knows how they're counting their online votes.
Then, they come from the state chairs, and then the state chairs give them to people who are tallying them up somewhere else, and then they're sending it in. And it was like the whole thing was just a mess. And I don't think state chairs had a whole lot of chance to really
verify their own
audit. I mean, they didn't have a chance to audit. So now there are some people on the board who want the votes audited. I mean, I'm not the only one,
even from this past election still.
Correct. But I just never pushed it. I never really wanted to push it. I didn't want to go around yelling election fraud and be that guy. You know,
I already
what I
got
mean?
one of those,
Yeah, I didn't want to be that guy. But it was pretty. I mean, for it to jump almost 300 votes from all the other motions that had happened over 2 days was very suspect. It's like, where were all these people for the rest of the convention? You know what I mean? Where were all these people at? Because we had the room. There was no doubt about it. We had the room. It wasn't even close. It felt like we were at a rock concert during the convention or the chair debate. I mean, it literally, you can watch the videos. You will hear people chanting my name, my campaign slogan.
Did you get a Donald Trump? We love you.
Dude, it was crazy. It was insane. I felt like a rock star, man. I really did. These people made me feel like a rock star. And then it was quiet when Joe talked. Jacob Lamont, who had jumped in kind of late and is from the Radical Caucus and is an awesome guy, one of my favorite people in the party. He got a little bit of an ovation, not huge. Joe got not much. The online participants got almost nothing except for Luke Wenke from New York, who was obviously there just to be a comedian, and he was getting a lot of laughs. But the room was shaking. Every time they came to me, the room was shaking. It was very obvious we had the in-person convention. It wasn't even close. Nobody that was in that room can deny that. You know what I mean? But for the whole, basically what it would have taken for me to lose is almost the entire online part of the convention to not vote for me. That's literally what it would have almost taken. And I took big states. I took California completely. I think we had 70% of the California delegation. I was unanimously voted for from Oklahoma. I mean, I started taking states, Connecticut, Maryland. I started taking states right away, and I'm going, this is crazy. And then all of a sudden it was like he won with 100 votes in the second ballot. I'm going, how does this even work? But politics is a dirty game, man. So if it was dirty, it was dirty. It happens. I moved on. And I never really wanted to make a stink about it because I didn't want to be that guy who's like, voter fraud. I didn't want to be that guy. So
sure. Yeah, especially for this unpaid, thankless position at the end of the day. So yeah, it's funny because like you think like, okay, in a small party like the Libertarian Party, where there's only there's people that are, obviously if you want to get to the top and you really want to be a super corrupt, what have you, you really want to make it big in politics, you're going to go to the Democrats or Republicans. But that's what you think on the surface until you show up at a Libertarian convention and you start to hear all the little whispers and you realize like, no, there is like as much, if not more, political maneuvering that goes on behind the scenes in this small, powerless party. What do you think is behind that? Like, why is there such weird like deal? Like, because that was the thing that shocked me the most when I finally like went to the Libertarian conventions and started to get involved, is when I realized like how much politicking was going on. And I was like, man, I thought the whole reason we rejected, or not the whole reason, but part of the reason that we rejected that two-party system is because it wasn't about principles. It was all about politics and making deals and this and that. And then you come to the Libertarian Party and you're like, wait, no, the same shit's going on here. So what do you think is behind people that kind of pull these sort of maneuvers to gain quote unquote power in this party with zero power?
Well, it's the same old slogan, man. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, right?
Zero power corrupts absolutely too, apparently.
But it doesn't. See, to them, it is power because it's power inside the party, right? And so we see this on every level of government too, right? So there's the federal government where, if you look at it now, that's where all the power is these days, right? But the state governments are the same way. The local governments are the same way. The county governments, the school boards, the same way. They get a little bit of power. And if they feel threatened that they're going to lose that little bit of power, they will do whatever it takes to keep that power. And it's the same way in the Libertarian Party with specific people. I mean, there's a lot of really good libertarians that understand that it's not just about the power. You know what I mean? It's about the messaging. It's about what we can do with the party, how we can make it more successful, how we can roll back the size and scope of intrusive government in our lives by using this political vehicle. But to them, it's all about the party. That's all they care about. These people aren't out there fighting every day like a lot of the Mises Caucus people, like really doing every single thing they can to try and make more libertarians. They're more interested in the bylaws and the platform and stupid shit, commas in the policy manual. You know what I mean? They're more interested in arguing over that than they are over, the fact that the government just locked us in our homes for the last 15 months. And so to them, that's their little power trip. And, they feel like they're a big fish in a very small pond. And if we dilute it and we bring new people and we make it a bigger pond, they become much smaller fish. And so they're freaking out about it. And so they feel like their little pad of relevance is fading. And so they're fighting tooth and nail, and they're turning dirty about it. They really are. I mean, we just saw what happened in Pennsylvania, where they had the bylaw, they can use the bylaw, but they have literally laxed that bylaw at every single convention for over 30 years.
That was the one where they didn't let newer party registrants come in and vote.
It's the 180-day threshold, right? Yeah. So the Mises Caucus, they've been telling the Mises Caucus for a year, there's no way you can show up and take this party. There's no way. You're never going to get enough people. And the Mises Caucus shows up with 300 people. It's like 6 times the amount of people that are at the convention that aren't Mises Caucus, right? And they go, oh, we got a bylaw. You guys can't vote. Sorry. And it's like, you guys have relaxed that bylaw at every single state convention for 30 years. We know you're playing dirty. We'll see you in 9 months. You know what I mean? That's basically what it comes down to. So
our own John Utterman did a great breakdown of that entire convention over on The System Is Down, our buddy Dan Smotz's show. So definitely go check that episode out too.
There's an ad on my show. Every single audio episode of my show has an ad for The System Is Down.
Hell of a podcast.
I'm a big fan of Dan Smotz.
Well, we share a couple sponsors now, actually, too, because I know your partner, really, the guy that does all your artwork and everything, is Top Lobster, who's actually sponsoring today's episode. So we both want to encourage everybody to go check out toplobster.com. Literally, no joke, and I'm saying this at the detriment of our own gear and our own store, the best freaking Liberty gear out there. Like it's top notch.
And if you want any of my gear, he makes all of my gear, like this wonderful. Let's see if it'll
the Break the Cycle hat. Oh, there, he just came into focus.
Yeah. That was perfect. This is actually a custom embroidered logo hat that you can with the old school green bottom that you can order, and then of course this camo hoodie for Break the Cycle, and you can even get yourself this awesome Break the Cycle pillow and have a piece of the couch stream at your house to watch the show with.
The pillow is a good touch. So how did you guys did you guys kind of partner on the design and look and feel of the Break the Cycle show? Because it is really just like, that's the first thing, before I even heard a single episode or was able to catch one on the live streams. That's the first thing that stuck out to me, is just like the look and feel of your video open, your like all the artwork for each guest that he does. I mean, it's really incredible stuff. So did you come to him? How did that whole partnership come together?
So this is what happened. I actually I wanted that synthwave look for the show. And so when I was putting together a show, I had no idea how to put together a live show, dude. Like, I had no idea how to program all this shit and do I was building a background, obviously, that looks pretty cool, in my basement. I wanted to have my studio in my basement, One of my
goals in life is to have a basement. So I think I have to live in Idaho to get one, but
Iowa, man.
Iowa.
Yeah,
I got all those places.
Anywhere in Tornado Island Tornado Alley.
I got all those 5-letter Midwest states mixed up.
Sure. So I'm trying to figure this out, but in the meantime, I'm like, man, I want to have a nice intro done. And I found Acid Dropsy on Twitter. It's at Acid Dropsy. He's got a band. His name's Alex. He's got a band called Whiskey Grenade, and he had this acoustic song that he had played, in a video called Wood Chipper Go Burr, right? Or Wood Chipper. And it's literally about throwing pedophiles and wood chippers, right? And so I'm like, this is my aesthetic, right? This is who I am. I want this. And so I went to him first, and I'm like, hey man, can I use this song? Is there a way you can record the acoustic version in a better audio quality with, not on your phone? And I can use it for my intro on my podcast. And I told him, I don't have a big following on the podcast, but I have a big following in general. So the podcast will eventually, maybe if I do it well, it will become a big podcast. And he goes, absolutely, dude. But guess what? We're actually recording it as a band right now with live instruments and all that shit. I was like, dude, just let me know when you're done. So he sent me the song. And then the song is actually a 2-part song. It's Wood Chipper and Disclaimer, which is the one where it's like, he's talking about he only meant wood chipper in Minecraft. Right. And so I was like, oh, that's a perfect outro song. So I have the intro outro song. And then I'm like, well, I still want this like video intro. And so I went to Fiverr, dude. Right. Fiverr. I'm sure you know what Fiverr is. And I found this Russian guy on Fiverr who did this kind of synthwave 80s, like VHS cassette type looking intros and outros for shows. And he worked with him for 24 hours, man. And he came up with my intro. I mean, that's really what it took, 24 hours. And so I put that out before I did any shows. And Top Lobster came to me, and he sent me the first logo that we were using, that that I'm drawn on, has my actual likeness on it. And he's like, dude, I drew you a logo. And I was all, bro, like, here, I have an idea for my feed on YouTube. I want, all of my thumbnails to roll together as far as colors go. I want them to like slowly go down color spectrums, right? And be like, so if you look at my thumbnails, unless there's videos that have been changed, dates that have been changed, like yours, we had to change. The top of the video melts into the bottom of the next thumbnail and all the way up, right? And he's like, dude, I could totally do that. I had no idea that he was going to start hand drawing everybody. I had no idea, right? So he starts sending me over the first couple of thumbnails for when we were doing the solo show, and then the Jacob Hornberger with him eating a burger. And I was all, dude, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. Do you want to just work on my show? I don't have anything to pay you at all, but I will put your name on everything. I will stump for your clothing line. And when I do start making money from the show, like actually making enough money where I'm not just breaking even on my life in the show, I'll start paying you. And he's like, dude, sold. Well, now we've just grown into this wonderful partnership where it's like, I don't even take a cut really of his clothing stuff anymore. He's not just a sponsor. He is a partner of Break the Cycle. He really is, and he's amazing. He's so much better than I think people even realize. He sent me over all kinds of different stuff, and I'm just like, this guy's amazing. And he hand draws everything.
Yeah, that's really incredible. I mean,
it's not just graphic. For me, it was like, oh, I just need a graphic design guy who could put some, put together a cool thing. He's like, I'm going to hand draw all this shit. And he hand draws it. He hand draws all of his clothing stuff, all of his logos, everything he's done for any podcasts or any shows, all hand drawn.
Yeah, I'm decked out in his gear too. I got the Scott Horton.
Oh, the Scott Horton. I have that. I have that
on a Freedom hat. I mean, we're all Top Lobstered out here today. So this show is double sponsored by toplobster.com. Yeah. So head over to Top Lobster.
And I don't know if you have a link yet.
We don't have a link. We do have a discount code.
Okay, so then you use your discount code.
Yeah, you can use discount code ROAR, or maybe if you use that and then maybe you want to place another order, you use Josh's link. So we're happy if he gets the sales either way.
Exactly.
That's what matters to us. All right, guys, I got to take a quick break to let you know about another podcast that I host along with my friend Remzo W. Martinez, another great libertarian. And if you like supporting the Lions of Liberty, if you like supporting libertarians in general, you got to check out the Second Print Comics podcast. This is the weekly podcast that Remzo and I absolutely pour our hearts into. We break down the stories, characters, comic book events that shaped our fanhood. And whether or not you are a comic book fan, I am pretty sure that if you like our style, if you like the cut of our jib, you're going to enjoy this program because it really is for everybody. It's for longtime fans, for lapsed fans, for new fans. If you've just seen some of the MCU movies or some of the Disney Plus shows and you want to learn more about the comic book origins of a lot of these stories and characters, or just learn about things you might not have ever thought you were going to learn about, because we dive into all sorts of stories from the mainstream to the very obscure. Again, if you are a comic book fan, you're definitely going to love this. And if you're not, you just might love it as well. Either way, we would really appreciate you taking the time out to check out the Second Print Comics podcast. You can find us at secondprintcomics.com or find us on your favorite podcatcher. Just search Second Print Comics Podcast. Josh, I want to dig in a little more to what we were just talking about corruption in the Libertarian Party, because one thing we haven't really gotten into much is besides running for chair, you actually served on the LNC for, I think it was it 4 consecutive years?
No, so I'm in my second term now, and they're 2-year terms. Gotcha. So yeah, right.
So what is there anything obviously you don't, I mean, it's up to you how far you want to go with anything, but is there anything that has stood out to you that you've seen over the years, whether you want to name names or not is totally up to you, but that where you've seen like other elements of corruption or malfeasance or whatever you might want to say?
Well, the stuff revolving around the 2020 convention was absolute just horrendous corruption. There's no doubt about it. And it was collusion between the executive director and the chairman. I mean, Nicholas Sarwark is a corrupt piece of shit. I mean, that's pure, plain and simple, period. He literally was fighting the Libertarian Party to have an online convention, and he was doing it as dirty as he can. He was trying to sway the delegates to vote. I mean, it was bad.
And so just to dig into that more, what exactly makes it dirty? Like because there might be some people that say, well, he's allowed to influence people. He's allowed to, ask people to vote the way he wants to vote. At what point does it go from just trying to influence people to get your way? Just like, you might try to influence people to vote for you. At what point does that go into corruption? Like what separates those two things?
Well, I think there were several letters sent to the board during the time where he was actually threatening to not chair the convention. I think that was, it's not technically corruption, but it was serious threats. And he wasn't just threatening that, he was threatening people privately. I'm not going to name those names, but he was legit telling people he would ruin them. And it was really bad. It was like, yeah, it was really bad stuff. But I can tell you personally, just for me, that in my first term, he made me the chair of the affiliate support committee. I was stoked. Affiliates were a big thing that I ran on. I was like, I'm going to help out every affiliate I can. We're going to do everything we can. And we were largely one of the most successful affiliate support committees the party's ever had. We put together a really cool contest that won some money for an affiliate, got people out in their communities working at doing actual activism. We worked on putting together an affiliate and a link box so people could click a link and start learning how to build affiliates. We did really good shit. And I had great people like Aaron Adams and John Phillips and Stephen Nikala and David Demarest and Richard Longstreth. Really great people on this board. I got to handpick them. And then we're in Reno where the 2022 convention is going to be. And he's going around telling the people that were on the affiliate support committee, you should have let Josh fail. I put him there so he could fail. And he said this to Aaron Adams in front of Richard Longstreth. It wasn't like he was just secretly he was telling this in front of LNC members.
So he put you in this position because he believed and hoped that you would fail at it, not because he wanted to actually help affiliates.
Correct. And this
is a verified thing that several people have
100%. Aaron Adams has been public about it. We've talked about it on her show. Richard Longstreth was standing right there and heard it. He actually turned to Nick and said, "What the fuck?" You know what I mean? Like, why would you do that? Why would you want somebody to fail that is helping all the affiliates? That's the most important place, and there's just been so much more things. There was the whole fight for 75. If you remember that, he fought to.
I remember it mostly from the memes, but yeah.
So we needed a fundraising director. We talked about that. And Nick said, I'll do it. Pay me $75 an hour. Then he tried to strong arm the board basically and said, hey, I actually have a PayPal sitting there with $200,000 from donors ready to go. If you guys will pay me $75 an hour. Well, why don't you just give that to the party now then? And then we'll hire you and then we'll give you a commission of whatever you raise, because that's how it works. No, I'm not going to do that. So it was just like one thing after a fucking another. And I was talking to Scott Horton about this last night. These are the things that make me think the guy's a federal agent, right? Like, you're going out of your way to hurt the party that you're supposed to be bolstering. The only reason you would do that is if you're sent here to disrupt. You know what I mean? And so,
that bitter and vindictive for whatever personal reason, maybe,
And he's threatened several people on the board. Like I said, I'm not going to name it. I'm not going to name names, but he's a piece of shit, man. I have no respect whatsoever for Nicholas Sarwark. And he's carried on that tradition even after not being chair anymore. So it's great that he's not in charge of the party. It's great that he got noted for treasurer in New Hampshire, especially for a guy like me that got voted treasurer by going to the bathroom once. I got voted in treasurer for an affiliate by just going to the bathroom while they were voting once.
I gotta hear that. What, someone nominated you while you were in the bathroom?
Yeah, I was in the bathroom and then they voted on me real quick and made me the treasurer. It was a county affiliate, but still, it's pretty funny.
I gotta be in charge of money. Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty funny to be elected a treasurer of something while you're in the bathroom and then find out that the guy that beat you for chair got noted. He literally lost to nobody. So that was cool. But it was I knew before I got on the board that it was going to be shady dealings. I already knew because I knew that was a shady person to begin with. It was one of the reasons why I ran for chair. It was one of the reasons why I set out on this mission to change the Overton party in the window and fill it with actual libertarians who want to grow the party and grow the movement and start beating some of these Republicans and Democrats. And go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, for people out there, I think a lot of people that listen to the show are like, a lot of them are, I'd say a good percentage are probably like fans of the Mises Caucus, like a lot of what you guys are doing. But there's certainly people out there that maybe maybe aren't the people that are really your enemies in general, but might be skeptical due to a lot of reasons, like maybe they just heard things about the Mises Caucus, or they hear the takeover language and they think, well, I've been working at the party for 10 years here, like why should I get taken over? So I want to give you the chance maybe just to speak. I mean, you're not running for chair again, but you are a big part of the Mises Caucus, so like to address people that like they are in favor of liberty, they do want to see the party grow, they're not trying to sabotage anything, but they might be skeptical of what they see as the Mises Caucus sort of takeover approach, maybe being too aggressive or what have you, but they're good people. So like, how would you address those people that aren't your...
It had to be aggressive. I mean, it literally needed to be aggressive because there were all these gatekeepers who were like, we're not going to let you in the party, basically. So it had to be aggressive, but I'm talking to those people right now, directly to you. I need you guys to understand that we're not here to kick everyone who was in the party out of the party. That was never the intention of the Libertarian Party Mises Caucus. If you are a good libertarian who is not a slanderous asshole, not vile and toxic and keeping this movement small, if you have been out there beating the streets and you have been getting signatures for petitions and you have been working with candidates and you have been working with your local affiliate, and all you want to do is see the party grow and become successful, we're here as reinforcements. We're not here to kick you out of the party. But there are people in this party who have been vile and have been toxic and have been gatekeepers who have tried to keep people like us, who are just radical libertarians, out of the party for a decade. I literally 10 years since probably Badnarik was the presidential candidate in 2004. And those people have slandered people like me, my family, my friends, all of the people in the Mises Caucus over and over and over again. So when we say we're taking over, we mean we're going to be the dominant force in the party, not that we want to get rid of you. We want to help you. And so that's what it is.
When you talk about slander and people talking about you, you specifically, you're talking about more than just like mean tweets, which you get your fair share of course.
Yeah.
But you have people actually like really going after your family, like outside of the public sphere. Do you want to get into a little bit of that?
I mean, we can. You know, it was, and I talked actually the first show I got to talk about it on was Dan Smotz's show. It was the first time anybody had ever asked me about it truly. Yeah, man, when I ran for chair in 2017, no one knew who I was. There was no hubbub about me. I was just a normal published guy, like outlet guy. I was working on Think Liberty. I was a maintenance man. Like I wasn't doing anything crazy. You know, I didn't have any big criminal charges or anything like that. And so in 2017, when I was running against Nick, and then Alicia Dern decided that she was going to jump in. And I'm not a huge fan of Alicia Dern after what happened in 2016 with Bill Weld and her conceding and pushing Bill Weld on the delegates. It was pretty nasty.
The whole Libertarian for Life.
Yeah, exactly. And so I wasn't a big fan, but her and her campaign manager at the time, who I wasn't really familiar with, I just knew her from Facebook and stuff, was Angela Fisher Owens. And fast forward, over 4 years, if you know who Angela Fisher Owens is, you probably know she's a vile, toxic asshole. And that's good. I'm glad that you know that now. But back then nobody knew that. And so they came to me and asked me if I wanted to work with Alicia Dern against Nick Sarwark. And I said, no, like I want to run my own campaign. I'm running a clean campaign. I don't need to collude with anybody. I'm building my own team. Like I know I'm lesser known, but I don't care. Right. And so they were a little upset about that, but they went away and didn't say anything. And so I was like, cool. All right. And I kept doing my thing. And then they came back to me and they're like, hey, we want to start a Me Too movement inside of the Libertarian Party. And I said, oh, okay. Well, what are you coming to me for? Well, we want you to help us do that. I said, look, I don't know any rapists in the Libertarian Party. Like, I just don't know any, you know what I mean? Like personally, I haven't seen anybody like sexually harassing people or any of that stuff. So I'm not going to be a part of a movement against people that I don't know. You know what I mean? I'm sorry. And so they were really upset about that, went away. And then 2 weeks later, I'm at the Texas State Convention. I was traveling. I went to 25 states that year, and I'm at the Texas State Convention, and Angela Fisher Owens texts me and goes, hey, some things coming out about you and Ben Farmer from the Adam Kokesh campaign doing something to some woman in Washington. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, what, huh? And I was like, I didn't do anything in Washington. I was like, that's my home state. That's where that was like my state convention. Everyone there knew me. Like everybody, every single person at the Washington State Convention knew me. And so she started turning it into this like thing where it was like, at first I said some sexually suggestive remarks to a man's wife. And then it was like, oh no, actually Ben Farmer said it, but you were standing there and laughed. And then, so I started saving all these screenshots of these texts. Right. And then all of a sudden, they put out an article on the what is now the Libertarian Vindicator. I don't remember what it was called at the time, or maybe they've changed the name since then, but about me saying that I was a sexual harasser and all that stuff. And I'm going, holy shit, they're trying to start this fucking Me Too campaign against me, right? Like after they came to me and asked me to do it. And the woman's name was Tashina Pascal, the wife of Joe Pascal, who I had endorsed for vice chair at the time. This was before Merced was running. And after this supposed event had happened, they had both donated to my campaign. Tashina Pascal personally donated like $200 to my chair campaign, right? And I'm going, this is fucking crazy. So I saved all these screenshots and I start going through and I realized that they're contradicting the things they had already said. Tashina too, right? And then I find out they're all working on the Feldman Foundation together. The Pascals, Angela Fisher Owens, Alicia Dern, they're all working there together, right? And so I put out my own article and basically just debunked everything they said, and they were pissed, dude. They were fucking mad because essentially it made the Alicia Dern campaign look really bad. And then Alicia Dern had to post a public apology on that same publication. Then the Pascals had to make a public apology on that same publication, and Angela Fisher Owens was basically marooned because she was creating all this shit. I mean, she's another one I think is probably a paid agent from the outside. You know what I mean?
And when you say that, you mean literally, like when you
I
talk
mean
about Nicholas Sarwark as a Fed, you don't mean it just like a meme or a joke.
So
like
I don't have any evidence per se other than the little bullshit that came from the Straffer dumps about Nick Sarwark. And I don't have any hard evidence about Angela Fisher Owens either. But I'll tell you that their behaviors could not be any better.
If one were a Fed, this might be how they would behave.
This is how you would act. Everywhere Angela Fisher Owens goes, she creates drama and carnage. She fucked the Adam Kokesh campaign. She fucked she fucked with my campaign. She's fucked with local and state affiliates that don't want her around. When that's all you do, I have nothing else to base who you are off of. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but anyway, so that made them really fucking mad. And then they started diving into my family history. They started going after my family court stuff with my son, my child support. And they started contacting ex-girlfriends that I hadn't seen in 10 years. Like crazy shit, dude. Like legitimate, insane person shit.
And again, this is against someone who is just running for chairmanship of like this small, third largest party, but still very, very small political party that has no.
Right. Exactly. And so that went on all through the campaign. And then it just kept snowballing when I announced again in 2020. I knew what I was in for. I knew it was coming. But I had so many receipts by that point that I didn't care anymore. I was like, you guys are fucking idiots. I don't care anymore. I don't care. I have the receipts that show you're lying. I have the receipts that show what you're saying is bullshit. So I don't even care anymore. Say what you want to say. You know what I mean? But they started gaining everybody they could that hated me around the country, anybody who hated me, and they'd get them in this little clique. And now they have this little secret group on Facebook called Joshua Covade Smith, where they make fun of me and trash my family and talk shit about me. And these people should not be fucking taken seriously at all. They're not good people. They're giant pieces of shit. I know thousands of people around the country that know the truth about me, and these people are liars. And so, I don't care anymore. I really just don't give a shit anymore. Like, fuck them. I have my family. I have my job. I have my own house. I have everything that I need in my life. I have right here where I'm doing this show from. So fuck them,
Well, what drives people to go to this kind of length to go after someone? Because when I think about, I don't know, my biggest political enemy is like, I don't know, Dick Cheney or something. Like, I would never go after his family. And this guy's a warmonger, a criminal, like responsible for maybe millions of deaths. I would never consider thinking like looking into these people's families or anything crazy like that. And yet it's happening here in this small political party. So like, what is it? Is it literally like I talked about this with Shane Hazel? Like he thinks there are literally like just chaos agents sent in to sort of infiltrate the Libertarian Party, make sure they never get anywhere, make sure they just end up kind of flailing about, end up just chasing nonsense or chasing ballot access and spending all their time not actually producing more libertarians, which is what it should.
And I agree. I mean, I agree with Shane Hazel 100%. Maybe some people disagree with me. I've talked to some of the old fart libertarians, like people like D. Frank Robinson, who was around during the founding of the Libertarian Party in the 70s. These people will tell you that for every 100 libertarians you meet, one of them is a phony. I mean, for real, like legitimately probably a chaos agent or someone sent from one of the other two parties to watch the local affiliate. I mean, the shit happens. If you don't think it's happening, you're not smart. You know what I mean? Like of course it's happening, because if the Libertarian Party ever grows big enough to become a force against the Republicans or the Democrats, they're going to start losing their power. So it's just like the Sarwarkians of the Libertarian Party on a bigger scale. They're going to do any kind of dumb shit they can to make sure that we never become prevalent in the United States, because then their positions are threatened. And when you make $180,000 a year sitting in Congress doing absolutely fucking nothing for 20 years, you don't have another job to fall back on. You know what I mean?
Except lobbyists or what have you. But
yeah, not if the libertarians take over.
Yeah, not if libertarians get in there. That's right. Yeah, I guess that is the point. If anything, maybe they want to try to keep the libertarians. Oh, a lot of libertarians probably do enough of a good job on their own.
Oh yeah, we're pretty good. Hey, trust me, we're good. We're very good by ourselves at keeping ourselves out of office. But we're probably better at getting into office than we think we are. But we have a lot of people who are definitely 100% paid to keep us out of there. There's no doubt.
All right, guys, before we wrap up here, I got to let you know about one of our great sponsors, our longtime sponsors at Lorenzotti Italy. If you are a fan of coffee, if you like a nice fresh cup of joe to wake up in the morning, as I do, you're going to want to check out our friends at Lorenzotti Italy. They deliver fine, premium Italian coffees right to your door in these nice little tins that look so wonderful sitting on your counter there. And if that weren't all enough, these guys are great libertarians. They are Patreon supporters of this show. They are absolutely worthy of your support. If that all wasn't enough, these guys do more than just sell coffee. They also help other entrepreneurs set up their own coffee businesses, help them acquire equipment, acquire financing, everything they need to start their own coffee business, start their own coffee shops. So you definitely want to check them out for that reason if that's something that's been on your mind. Either way, just fantastic people at Lorenzotti Italy. Amazing people, fantastic people. You'll want to support them if you're fans of the show. Heck, even if you're not, if you're listening to this by accident, check them out anyway. They have great coffee. Lorenzotti Italy. You can find them at lorenzotti.coffee. That's LORENZOTTI.coffee. And you do not want to forget your Lions of Liberty listener discount. Just use discount code ROAR for 10% off your order. Another thing you mentioned there along the way that I want to dive into a little bit was your experience with family court. And so can you get into that a little bit, as much or little as you're comfortable with? But I'm just kind of curious how you first ended up dealing with that and what that system is like. Because a lot of people on the outside, or maybe even some libertarians, might just say, well, of course, like if a father or what have you should have to pay for child support or whatever, and they might just think it's that simple and that transparent. And I might even agree, a father should have to pay money or give some kind of support, but that's not exactly how black and white family court is. So can you describe what family court is, what actually goes on there that people from the outside might not realize what's going on?
Well, I can tell you what happens 75% of the time in family court. A dad and a mom walk in with a child who needs a dad and a mom, and they walk out either with a mother and a father who is considered a visitor in the eyes of the court, or a father who is considered a criminal in the eyes of the court. That's typically what happens in the family law system. They are incentivized to make one person the financial contributor and the other person the custodial parent, right? So they're incentivized. That the case,
even if the parents go in kind of in a cooperative
agreement
way. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, I think most of the states, I don't know if they're all this way, require some kind of child support, even if it's a small amount. Like here in Iowa, it's $40 minimum a month, right? It's required. It's required for custody cases because they get a portion of that through the state. And so
wait, the state gets a portion of the child support?
Yeah, I'm not.
I don't know why I'm so shocked by this, but I've never heard that before.
Yeah, so it's required, and they'll tell you it's required to take care of the child, but it's required because the state gets kickbacks from child support. So you can imagine the millions of child support cases around the country is bringing in billions of dollars every year for states. And Oregon's one of the worst. Where my first real custody case took place for my son, who is the only child that I have that doesn't live with me now, my middle son, unfortunately. But my first experience with the family law court was my marriage. I was married when I was 19 years old in the military. We had a daughter who I have custody of now at 16. And we had to split up. I moved to California, back to California. My daughter lived in Arkansas. We were flying back and forth. Everything was fine. And my ex-wife got remarried and changed her last name and changed her phone number and moved. And I couldn't find him for a long time. And so that was really hard. But I was calling the family law courts because we had got an official divorce, but there was no custody agreement really. Probably a small amount of child support or something that has never been
took off.
She just took off, right? And so I was calling the family courts, and they wouldn't do anything for me, nothing, because there was no custody agreement. They would do nothing, even though I'm on the birth certificate and the child's registered legal father. They would do nothing for me. 5 years of that went by. 5 years, and that was used against me in my chair campaign too. As a I walked away, I disappeared thing. Not true. Not even fucking close to true.
The opposite.
The opposite of true. Right. Yeah, exactly. And so that was my first taste of family laws. They wouldn't even help me as a father find my daughter. Okay. And then when I had my second kid, unplanned, whatever, that's fine. I'll take care of it. There were some things that truly worried me about my son's situation at the time. And so when I went into the court, so first of all, I went to go file for custody. She hadn't put me on the birth certificate, so they wouldn't let me file for custody. I had to go down and file for paternity first. I filed for paternity. They eventually had to threaten her with a subpoena to bring him down and get him swabbed because she wouldn't bring him in. It took 3 months. When she did finally bring him in, they swabbed him. Paternity went through. I went up to file for custody, and there was a protective order against me. Right. So right before I could go file for custody, she went and filed a protective order. So I had to go fight. She said I was a violent. We dated for 2 weeks. She said I was violent. 2 weeks, literally we dated for 2 weeks. And so I had to go and fight the custody, the protective order first. So we go into the hearing for that. God, I tell this story to a lot of people. I've never told it like on a live show before, but we walk in and I'm freaking out because I've never had to deal with this shit before. I'm not like a criminal. I've never beat anybody. Like, you know what I mean? Sure. And she walks in like a Hillary Clinton, like 3-piece suit, right? With an accordion folder. And I'm going, what the fuck did she have in there? We dated for 2 weeks. Like we hung out 3 times. You know what I mean? And so the judge is like, all right, Miss Redacted, we're going to need you to prove without a doubt when Mr. Smith puts you in danger of grievous bodily harm or injury or whatever. And so she starts ruffling through this folder. I'm going, what the fuck is going on here? Right? Like, what is this? And she pulls out a paper and she snaps it. Right. And I was like, this is not happening right now. And she's like, well, on this day at this time, Mr. Smith threw a tortilla at me.
No, don't tell me that's what it's.
I'm like, try. I haven't even said anything other than being sworn in. Right?
The exact piece
legitimately. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, I came over after the bar one night. Right, I was 21, or I was 20. Let's see, what was I, 28 or something? I just moved to Oregon. I didn't know anybody. Like we had met on Plenty of Fish, and we went out and hung out at a club one night, and then I came over like 2 more times, and one time was after I was working at the bar and stuff, and we were making quesadillas, right? And we were like laughing, and I like threw a little piece of a quesadilla at her. She was laughing. We were laughing. It was cute. I thought it was cute. And now here it is a year later, and she's literally using it against me in court
as the basis to keep you from your child.
To keep me from my child. And so the judge, her name was Judge Kirshner at the time, little tiny, awesome Jewish lady, but she ended up dragging me through the mud too. But I'll talk more about that. So she goes, no. Listen, Miss Redacted, I need you to tell me when he put you in danger for your life or bodily injury. Not when he threw a tortilla at you, right? And she's like, so she starts rifling through this thing again. And I'm going, what can she have in there? And she pulls it out, right? And she snaps the paper again. And she's like, on this day at this time, he texted me. And I quote, I guess I'll have to go about this a different way, and puts it back in the folder, right? And I'm going, in my head, I'm like, yeah, dude, like because I was telling you I wanted to see my son and you were telling me I couldn't. And so I meant I was going to take you to court. Right. What we're doing right now, and so she puts it away, and then the judges at this point, like, she's got her head in her hand. She's like, no, Miss Redacted, let me tell you, I need you to tell me when he put you in danger, actual physical danger. And she goes, well, that's all I got. And the court,
so you're wasting our time.
And the judge is like, I'm going to throw this protective order out. You guys have a good day. And all I said was, thank you, Your Honor, and walked out. That was all I said the whole time we were in court. I didn't even have to like defend myself. But it was like, that is what is allowed to happen. You get a protective order on a man who's trying to file for custody of his own child because
you can get that original protective order without providing any evidence. You just say something.
Yeah. Like, and then there's a hearing. You can say, and if I hadn't had contested it and gone to the hearing, it would have stuck for 2 years. I wouldn't have even been able to file for custody, and they would have been taking child support from me, and I wouldn't be able to see my son and all that stuff. So as soon as that happens, we run upstairs. We're like basically racing to the family court office to try and file for custody, because now we can file for custody because this is handled. It's thrown out. And she beats me by like 3 people in line and files for custody, for full custody. So I refile for full custody because I'm like, like I said, there was things in Mrs. Redacted's life that worried me very badly. And so I was a scared father at the time. Probably not the best way to go into court. Let me tell you guys, if you're going into court, don't do that. It's always going to look bad on you. It's just not
emotional or what have you.
Very emotional. Right. I was trying to raise money for court because at the time I was working a very low paying job. I was trying to get into school. I didn't have a lot. So I was trying to raise money to fight for my son because I was worried about it and it just made me look really bad. But the court dragged me through the mud. I just told you I was making a low-paying job, but I was bartending in the evenings too, right? So I had 2 jobs. Well, when we went through the child support proceedings, they added up all my income, and then speculated about how much I made from tips in the bar, which they speculated way higher than what I was getting at the time. And so the initial child support proceedings went through. $1,269 a month.
Wow.
I was making $947 after taxes every 2 weeks from my day job, lost my bartending job, and they were garnishing half of what I was making every month. Because, and this is another thing. She always says, well, the state has to take money from you. State of Oregon auto garnishes all child support cases. Every single one. If you have a job, they are auto garnishing you. That's how it works. And so they're auto garnishing $947 every month. It's not covering what I owe every month. And I'm trying to live off of less than $1,000 while I'm in college for nursing.
Wow.
Okay. And so I went to the court and I said, hey, I can't do this. You guys are holding me to a double job standard. I cannot survive on $1,000 a month. I'm basically living in my car. I'm studying for finals in nursing school under streetlights and shit. Like, I can't keep doing this. Like, I cannot keep doing this. And they're like, sorry, Mr. Smith, you have another year until you can renegotiate child support.
That same figure is still based on having that bartending job and getting these tips that you definitely didn't get.
So they held me to a double job standard for 2 years, speculated about how much I was making from tips with no proof whatsoever, other than I came in and told them what I made. And they held me to that for 2 years. It ruined my fucking life completely. And then, so she decided, okay, well, I showed up like 5 minutes late to pick him up, and she was driving out of the parking lot. Mrs. Redacted, just not a very nice person. And she was driving out of the parking lot at 5 minutes late. Okay. And I'm texting her. I'm going, hey, what's going on? Like, I'm here to pick up my son. What can I do? And she's like, sorry, you'll have to come back next week. So I show up next week. He's not there. She's not letting me see him anymore. There's a court order parenting plan, right? I went through all this shit so that I could see my son. So I said, you know what? Fuck it. I'm not paying you any more child support. I'm in school right now. I'll go work part-time until you let me see my son.
Because that's her end of the agreement. So
right. Within a month, they slapped me with a contempt order. Within a month. Okay. So I had to continue to pay for 6 months, or they wouldn't drop that charge. Meanwhile, she's not letting me see my son. Right.
And there's nothing that so there's this enforcement arm that definitely holds you to the fire for having to pay, but is there nothing that holds the mother to the fire?
I filed twice for contempt for them because she was in contempt of the court order. They did nothing. And then I finally ended up moving, and it was like, well, I can't do shit now. You know what I mean? What am I supposed to do? And so that's the court has been weaponized against fathers, always first fathers. I'm not saying no mothers go through this. There's definitely mothers that go through this. It's the exception, not the rule, right? They know that they can take money from the father almost always, and that they can make the mother custodial parent, and that if the father doesn't pay, they can make you a criminal if you can't pay. It's not even about if you don't pay. It's about if you can't pay. If you hit a certain amount of arrears because you weren't making enough to cover what you're owing every month, they will put you in jail. They'll take your driver's license. They'll take your work licenses. It's like, how does that even make sense? You're a barber, right? We're going to take your barber's license because you're not paying your child support. Well, how am I going to pay now?
It really seems like, from what you described, that the system is geared towards taking fathers away from their kids as much as possible, or making it as hard as possible for the father to actually
shocking, right? It's almost like the drug war.
Yeah.
I wonder why the government
almost like there's an actual purpose behind this.
Yeah, I wonder why the government doesn't want fathers in homes. Maybe it's because they know that single moms are more dependent on the government, and they can continue to take money from the rich and give them
society
the people
will probably be more favorable towards the mother just on its base, just because of our sort of biases.
It's culture. It's culture, and it's a culture that's been bred by the family law system. I mean, it really is. It 100% is. You know, a lot of women get to run around and call dads who don't get to see their kids every day deadbeat dads all the time. You know, and you want to be more sympathetic to a single mother. I mean, it's how it works, right? My mom never called my dad. My dad didn't do shit. I met my dad once. My mom never called him a deadbeat. Never. She just did what she had to do to raise us and make sure we were healthy and happy and had food and a home. But you know, there is a lot of very corrupt shit going on that has been bred from a culture of family law. I mean, it's just how it is. So.
Well, I think it would be hard for anyone. Well, although I still see people tweet things at you, so I guess it's not that hard for some people. But for people to call you a deadbeat dad, especially right now, sure. With the family that you have now, in the past year or so that has come together for you, you've taken custody of. I think you've gotten your own daughter's custody as well as adopted several other children. I think some for foster children. Just want to maybe briefly kind of go over that process and how were you able to do that so favorable? How were you able to get that custody of these kids?
So here, we're gonna go into some special shit here. So, a little over a year ago, the beginning of March of 2020, I was a single guy living with my best friend in a home in California, 3-bedroom track house in California. We cleaned up on Fridays before parties. You know what I mean? And in 1 year now, I have a fiance and 7 children in the house. But the way that works
makes my life changes look like nothing. All I got a wife and a stepson.
So what happened was, I moved to Iowa late March of last year to be with my fiance, who already had 2 small daughters, an 8-year-old and a 3-year-old, wonderful girls. She got pregnant in April with our son. And then in October, I got a call. I had been trying for 10 years to get custody of my daughter. I called every court I could in the area. You know, it was a sad process, and she had been going through some stuff. And it made me feel really bad because it should have been a lot easier for me to get her a long time ago. And so in October, I got a phone call that my ex-wife was incarcerated and that I had an opportunity to go pick up my daughter. But she also had 2 siblings, smaller siblings. My daughter's 16. She had 2 smaller siblings that are 9 and almost 7. And we had the opportunity to get guardianship of them, not custody. We're working on the adoption side of that. So we drove down to Arkansas to pick them up, which was great. My fiance is just an absolute saint, an angel of a person. I told her, I have an opportunity to go get my 16-year-old daughter. My fiance is almost 10 years younger than me. She's 28. She's 28. I'm 38. Right. So, she'll be 29 in like a month, but, and so I said, I got an opportunity to go pick up my 16-year-old daughter. And she goes, when do we leave? Without missing a beat.
And I said, how are we going to make this work? Nope. Or like nothing.
And we were living in a 2-bedroom apartment at the time. Right. We already have 2 kids, a kid on the way, and we're going to pick up a 4th. Right. And then I said, but here's the thing. We also have the opportunity to get a guardianship of her younger brother and sister that aren't mine biologically, but, keep them from going to foster care or wherever else they might end up that is not good. And without missing a beat again, she said, great, when do we leave? And so that made 5 in the house. And then we had our son, December 31st, New Year's Eve, my son was born. And then when we were on the way down in October to pick up my daughter, we found out that she was pregnant, my 16-year-old daughter. And so my granddaughter was born March 14th, the day after my birthday. And
it's like a sitcom setup here, man.
Yeah,
an 80s sitcom here.
Yeah. And so now we have 7 in the house, from 16 to 3 months, basically 3.5 months. And my granddaughter, we have 2 infants, basically. One's 5 months old, one's 3.5 months old. Pretty wild, man. Pretty wild.
That's some life changes right there.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy. And so anybody out there calling me a deadbeat dad can kiss my entire ass. And you're a
I
fucking
even see
idiot.
people criticize you, like they'll ask for your, like, oh, let's see your child support, and you'll post screenshots, and then
Yeah, here you go.
they'll say, oh, you're working 50 hours of overtime. What kind of dad are you away from your kids? Like you can't. Win with these
you
people.
can't win with these people, and it's hilarious. So I'm legitimately working on raising 7 kids in my home, and I still have my son who does not live in my home, who I'll take tomorrow if I have the opportunity, and that I am paying $680 a month in child support for, on top of the 7 kids that I'm raising in my home. So, people can say whatever the fuck they want, but it doesn't mean they're smart. Probably they're idiots. So
it's a lot of responsibility, my man. So certainly a lot of changes since we first had that meeting in New Orleans at random, which you can hear all about by checking out my edition, Bring It Full Circle, my episode of Break the Cycle. Again, that was episode 30, but check him all out. He's got amazing interviews with so many people in the Liberty movement. I think, like you mentioned, you just had Scott Horton on again.
for the second time.
So feel free to plug away on everything you got going on with Break the Cycle. Feel free to plug how people can best find the show. I know. I think the best way to watch is to see the live streams. See that thing.
Yeah, it's the live's cool because we have a really cool chat community of people. I mean, we'll get 50 to 100 people in the chat that are just going off having a good time, and you can actually join. You can become a member of the channel now. The channel's monetized, and you get cool badges for being a member, and you get like special emojis that are hand drawn by Top Lobster. Of course. The cool badge that you get's the same thing that's on this pillow here. It's the see if you can see it, the BTC. It's the BTC logo. If you haven't noticed,
not a
Break
coincidence,
the Cycle.
I imagine.
Yeah, not a coincidence. Break the Cycle, BTC, Bitcoin. I'm a big crypto advocate. So, but yeah, you can join the channel there. And so definitely it's youtube.com/fight the despots. I'm also on Odyssey. Eventually I would like to take all of my YouTube followers over to Odyssey. I think that's
our plan too, because we're only on YouTube because people are there, but we'd like to bring you all over to our Odyssey channel. So follow myself, and follow Lions Liberty and Break the Cycle on Odyssey. Help us.
It's definitely one of those things, man. Like I love Odyssey. I think it's going to be great, but we need the viewership now. So if you guys can start following the Odyssey as well, that would be great. But definitely follow the YouTube, because that's also where the monetization is at. And
for some of us, we were demonetized a few years ago. We're still working.
Were you guys really demonetized?
Yep.
Holy shit! I haven't run into that yet.
Not deplatformed. They're fine to let us talk at least still, but they won't let us make money.
Well, not even with super chats or anything, huh? That sucks, dude.
Complete demonetization. We're working on trying to get it. The problem is there's no customer support. Like, it doesn't exist. So if you run into a snag, which we have, there's nothing you can do. There's no email, there's no phone number, there's no nothing. So I've actually been talking to friends in LA who know people that work at YouTube to try to actually get to a person. So we're hoping to figure something out, but we're not banking on it.
But yeah, definitely check out the show on YouTube. The live shows are fun, but you can also find the audio on all the podcast catcher apps. And we're actually the show's been around a little over 2 months, and we're averaging 1,600 listens a week now, which is kind of cool. So and then follow me on Twitter at Joshua at Large, man, because that's where my war with the blue checks are for sure. But we're on all the platforms, man. Break the Cycle on Facebook, Break the Cycle on Instagram, Joshua from Break the Cycle on Twitter, of course. Follow everything. My girlfriend, or my fiance runs the Instagram and the Facebook. So if you message me there, she sends me a screenshot and asks me what she wants me to say, what I want her to say. So.
All right, Josh. Well, it's been awesome catching up with you, and awesome about, I knew some of the surface level of this stuff, but it was really interesting to find out some of the details, both the good and the bad, behind a lot of what's been going on behind the scenes there. So I wish you the best of luck, man, with everything you got going on, and definitely check out Break the Cycle. It's one of the most fun shows. Like I said, I got really personal. We got a lot of my personal life on that show. So definitely check out my interview there and all the other great interviews on Break the Cycle. So keep up the great work, man. I know I don't need to tell you this, but please do keep on rolling, Josh.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you.
Live long and live free.